I will welcome you with Arabic coffee and dates.
Fortunately, things I love.
Okay.
So I always want to come over to your house.
You're more than welcome, please.
Wow.
They could read the stars, they knew the direction, they had an inbuilt sense of finding their way home.
Wonderful skills, which must be fascinating for you.
Yes, and so needed, so necessary to survive.
These crazy ideas that our engineers come up with and take them into space and bring us closer to that Star Wars, Star Trek kind of vision, that is what drives me. So you never know where we'll be in 30 years, but hopefully we find some aliens and we're able to say hello.
Dubai was founded in 1833, then just a tiny little fishing village on the edge of the desert, simply a resting place for Bedouins. Fast forward nearly 200 years and Dubai is a jewel in the Arabian Peninsula and one of the 7 Emirates of the UAE, famous around the world as the go-to luxury tourist destination. Home to more 5-star hotels than anywhere else on the planet, where locals once dive for pearls, they now shop in luxury malls and dine in the finest Michelin-star restaurants. But if you think you know Dubai, that this is all the city is about, then I have news for you. I'm Kate Garraway, and in this series, I'm going to meet people that will open your eyes and your mind to another Dubai, the one that is unheard, to show you what this city and its residents are all about. A place where East meets West, where women can and do lead the way, where science is saving resources and selflessness is saving lives. We'll meet people who want to turn what you think about this city on its head and tell a totally different story about Dubai and its amazing people. When you look at this thriving, forward-looking global city, it's hard to believe it began as a tiny fishing village and stayed pretty much the same for the best part of 200 years, until 1971 and unification. All this exploded in the last 50-odd years. Dubai Creek has been the lifeblood of Dubai for hundreds of years. It's where the pearl industry developed. It was its first port, and it's still pretty thriving today as well. I'm crossing the creek on a boat native to Dubai called an abra, which literally means to cross. And it feels like I'm traveling back in time. A far cry from Dubai's downtown glitz and glamour, the historical neighbourhood Al Fahidi is the city's link to its past and heritage and is home to its oldest building, the Al Fahidi Fort. Hidden among Al Fahidi's narrow streets and traditional architecture is a plethora of cultural gems and wonders. You can find everything from art galleries and museums to authentic Emirati cuisine and Arabian tea houses. Here you can also find Dubai's traditional marketplaces known as souks, with their dazzling array of colours, sights and sounds. There's something for all the senses here. The incredible smells of perfume and spice, the luxurious feel of fabrics, and the sight of the not-so-hidden gems within the gold souk. To help me learn more about Al Fahidi's history and Emirati heritage, I'm meeting Noor from the Sheikh Mohammed Centre for Cultural Understanding. She's going to show me around the neighbourhood, but first we head inside the centre to see a typical Arabic Majlis.
Welcome to our Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Cultural Understanding. We're sitting currently in a place that we call it Majlis, a very important aspect in our culture.
This is how people would have lived in Dubai when it was still a little fishing village, when it wasn't the skyscrapers that we know today.
It is actually, but not everyone in Dubai used to live in those kind of houses. We call them in Arabic buyut al-tin, or mud houses. The houses are made from coral stones, clay, and a specific type of wood that was brought from Kenya. So the people who used to live in this neighborhood, Al Fahidi neighborhood, were the merchants of Dubai.
Ah, okay. So they were already trading and having access to bringing things in.
It is. From some architecture here, from the designs on the walls, from the carvings, from the type of the wood, you can sense that people were able to import this kind of material.
Already, it was welcoming visitors from around the world.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's why we're inviting you to a Majlis. So the Majlis concept in our culture is a quite important thing.
What is that?
So it's basically in English translated to be like a living room. Whenever you go to any of the local houses, you'll always be welcomed in a Majlis. And we always welcome our guests with two main things, which is basically Arabic coffee and some dates.
Okay, Arabic coffee dates. Fortunately, things I love.
Okay.
So I will always want to come over to your house.
You're more than welcome, please.
Wow. Now, where are these dates from?
They are the very common type of dates in the UAE. They're basically called khalas in Arabic or
Yes.
pure in English. These are the sweetest type of dates, by the way.
Delicious. And this is Arabic coffee.
It is Arabic coffee. So now I want you to try it with the dates.
Lovely. Really nice. Really nice. So what is the significance of the Majlis in Arabic culture generally and here in Dubai, of course?
So basically, the Majlis is a very important aspect in our culture. This is where people get together and bond together. This is where we have our chats.
So it could be social or business or anything.
Anything. Here in Dubai, actually, businessmen used to sit in the Majlis to have like a business conversation, private matter happening. Tribe leaders, high ministers would sit in the Majlis. And this concept has been passed on through generations to even till today is very important. So if you go to any of the local houses, you will always have to find two main rooms, which is basically two majlises. We tend to sit female majlis and the male majlis. Whenever we have guests coming over to our house, we always have to welcome them in that place because that's the reception of your house. Always have to be nice, clean, always ready with a coffee pot and a teapot to serve your guests with dates also.
As we venture outside, it's noticeable that the skyline isn't one of skyscrapers, but of chimney-like four-sided structures that rise up from the rooftops of local homes. And while these may look like architectural flourishes, they are in fact ancestors of modern-day air conditioning, called wind towers.
People used to build the wind tower actually for them to cool in the summertime.
Right.
It will be actually from four sides open, will
Yes.
allow cold air to hit in and take out hot air outside.
Wow, so the hot air rises and then any breezes will come in.
It is. So it's
Very
like
clever.
Ventilation system.
Yeah, this is an original one.
That's the original one, by the way.
Ah, yeah. So what sort of time would this be? How long ago?
Around, let's say, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Because the whole neighborhood has been around 150 to 200 years old.
Really? Yeah.
And these are the actual houses that used to have the wind towers.
Wow. Beautiful. Al Fahidi's architecture is profoundly intertwined with traditional Emirati culture, evident in even the design of the front doors. Wow.
So we're standing now in front of a door of any regular house. Around the neighborhood, you wouldn't find any door that's facing another door
So why is that?
in terms of privacy.
Ah, so they don't want to open the door and find someone else is looking at them.
It is. So the big door, usually you open it up whenever they have big gatherings, feasts, allowing their sheep, their horses inside the house. And the small door, people usually think it's for pets or for dogs.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like, well, we have like dog flaps at home.
But not really, I'll tell you what.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about the privacy. So whenever anyone's before entering the house, they have to knock the door for 3 times.
Okay,
So I'm going to
show me.
demonstrate that. This is to announce who everyone is coming before entering the house. Any man, before he enters the house, he have to open this door,
Yes.
bend his head, then he can go.
And why would that be?
That's for any case if there was a lady not covered up inside the house, that will give her
Right.
a chance to put a scarf, and this will allow him to go inside.
Go inside.
He have to say one thing, hod, it means that I'm coming in. For him to announce that it's okay for him to enter, she would say hida.
Ah, hut and then
Hida.
hida. Wonderful. Thank you.
Good to hear that.
Beautiful, fascinating. I'm going to look at all the doors in the area now, and I'm going to notice this, and I wouldn't have understood why before. So
Don't forget
thank
to
you
knock
very
the door.
much. Yeah, I will always knock before entering, I promise. This has been eye-opening, actually. It's so beautiful here. And to understand a little bit more about where traditions have come from has been fascinating. And it's just lovely because actually you see many of them continuing in Dubai today. And so it's just fantastic to feel that sense of history in a place that really is so modern. Some people might assume that Dubai has an oil-based economy. In fact, oil makes up less than 1% of their GDP. Any oil wealth they did have has been invested in infrastructure. And now transport, construction and tourism are the real growth drivers here, which is a stark contrast from where it all began. An integral part of Dubai's history is an industry that's been present in the region for more than 7,000 years: pearl diving. For centuries, the waters of the Arabian Gulf were home to some of the world's most sought-after pearls, with Dubai emerging as a thriving hub for this lucrative trade. The pearl diving saw fleets of dhows set sail, manned by skilled divers who would plunge to depths of 40 feet without modern equipment. These divers relied only on their breath-holding abilities, a nose clip and a weighted rope to retrieve oysters, enduring long hours and harsh conditions. A resilience and drive which form the cornerstone of the UAE's national identity. We're here at the Etihad Museum, which was built on the site of the historic signing of the United Arab Emirates Constitution on December the 2nd, 1971. On that day, the UAE flag was raised for the first time, marking the official establishment of the country. The museum itself is in the shape of a manuscript to signify the signing of the UAE Constitution, and there are 7 columns built into it to resemble the 7 pens used to sign the original declaration. One person who arrived in Dubai in 1968 and witnessed both the unification and the transformation of the past 56 years is someone who we've met in a previous episode, Isabel Al-Bahul. Now, we were talking before, weren't we, about the difference between getting off the plane and stepping in the sand and what you see here today. The UAE didn't really exist, did it, when you first came here in 68?
No, it was the trucial states. So it was overseen or governed by Great Britain.
And then in 1971, it became established with an independence.
Yes.
Do you remember the day that the independence was declared?
Yes, it was in December. And they signed the agreement amongst, originally it was 6 emirates, and then Ras Al Khaimah joined soon afterwards. The rulers from the emirates came to the Etihad Museum, where they signed the document, and the constitution was all agreed and written. And it was incredible, their wisdom, their foresight, and the brotherly feeling between each emirate to come together for the good of the people. And again, it was a drive towards education, healthcare, livelihoods, you know, all of these things that mattered for their people, you know, making sure everyone had homes, making sure that before that, they were unable to do any of that. But as soon as they were independent, they could. And my goodness, did they do it at a pace. And that
so
again,
did that kick-start?
Yes.
A kind of
1971,
rebirth?
everything. There was no holding them. You know, the future was theirs.
And how much of a role did the rulers and their ambition play?
Huge. I think they were the leadership, and they listened and they took advice, and it was very much the Majlis style. So the ruler had a Majlis that was open to all. So all the people of Dubai could go, men generally, would go and sit, and they would share what they thought, etc. And he would listen to everything they said. He would think about it, and then he would make these decisions. And he was incredible, as was the late Sheikh Zayed. I mean, they'd thought about, you know, we don't want our people not to have access to education, to hospitals, to jobs, all of this. So they tackled each and every one of them, the infrastructure, the roads. So in 1971 was the first time I went to Abu Dhabi. There was still no road between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, but it was built very soon after. So we went in convoy across the desert.
So could you sum up what the biggest change is, how it's changed Dubai from when you first arrived in the desert in 1968?
Where to start? I mean, it has become a metropolis. It has become a city on people's bucket list to come and see and wonder at how has this happened in such a short space of time. And it is definitely worth a visit, but scrape the surface when you come and find the roots of Dubai and the Emirates and where it's come from, because they're still there. You don't have to look far. And it's those memories that I cherish. I learned so much from here. I couldn't navigate. If you put me in the desert, I could not navigate my way home. Everyone from here could. They could read the stars. They knew the direction. They had an inbuilt sense of finding their way home.
Wonderful skills, which must be fascinating for you.
Yes, yes. And so needed, so necessary to survive.
Yeah. And what makes Dubai so unique?
It is unique. I cannot think of anywhere else in the world that has had the trajectory that Dubai has had. And every single day, I'm amazed at the success. I love the people of Dubai. I love the people of the Emirates. It's not so much the place, it is the people that make it so special and will continue to do so.
How wonderful. Could you imagine living anywhere else now?
No, when I go back to the UK, I feel a bit like an alien, not like I've got 3 green heads or anything like that, but I'm missing those elements that have become so much part of me.
I've loved exploring Dubai's rich culture and history, which can still be found in the city today. Now I'm eager to look ahead and understand how Dubai and the UAE are looking to the future. Who'd have thought that those stars Isabel used to guide her would just a few decades later be within reach in one of the city's most exciting new industries? Established in 2006, the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Centre is home of the UAE's national space programme. I've come here to meet the Director General, Salem Humaid Omari. Where did it come from, this idea to go into space? You know, UAE, only a country in 1971. And in the last, 20 years has changed incredibly, Dubai, the city itself. And now you're in space. When did it begin?
We as Arabs, I think humans have that gene in them that they want to explore the unknown. I love Star Wars and Star Trek, and science fiction is part of our DNA. But when we look at Arabs as well, historically, the stars, astronomy, that's a big part of our culture.
So yes, in the 60s, even as late as the 60s, nomadic tribes would have used the stars to navigate their way across the desert here, wouldn't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
And now that same kind of wandering lust is taking them to the stars.
Absolutely, and I think it's part of our culture. Most of the stars, a lot of them are named after Arabic names. So if you look at historically, over the last 500 years, astronomy is really part, even astrology is part of our kind of culture from the region. So pushing towards exploration and going to Mars, going to the moon, sending astronauts was a natural progression from that early seed that was set. And here we are today.
So dare I ask how old you are?
I'm 41.
So what year were you born?
1982.
So 1982 you were born. Now you're working on a space project. You must have seen a lot of change in Dubai in that time.
Quite a lot. So I remember, when I was, let's say, in the early 90s or very late 80s, a place like this was just pure desert. So this area is a farmland area. So people would drive, for example, from where I live, and it would take you about 30 minutes to get here. And about 20 minutes of that is just pure desert. And now you've been here and it's just all construction, it's buildings. So the city's grown a lot. It used to be a very small city. The type of people that are living in the city, of course, we have nationalities from all over the world today. We all live and work together. I think that change has really been something unique to live through. If I talk about space, which not a lot of people know. So people know Dubai with the large buildings, as a tourist hub, the beautiful beaches, the shopping, the airport, Emirates Airlines. But maybe they don't know that we have a very vibrant space program that's partnering with all of the big nations. So that the change in that as well is quite unique. So whenever I speak to our colleagues from NASA or the European Space Agency, they can't believe how fast the growth is in the UAE and at the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center.
Was there an element 20 years ago of them thinking, what? Dubai? You want to send people to space? Was it almost, I'm sure you're too polite to say, but it was almost a little bit patronizing, like they didn't believe you?
Definitely, yeah. So, I mean, we started 20 years ago. A lot of people didn't believe. And maybe there was some, some of them were patronizing, some of them were thinking, we don't think that's going to happen. Today, I think a lot of them do believe. Our latest project is we're going to build a part of the Moon Gateway, which is a station around the moon. So this is a project with NASA, the European Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. The fifth partner is the UAE. We'll build a very large airlock. That's about a 10.
Now, you have to explain what that means.
So
what does gateway and airlock mean? What are you building in,
Sure,
in idiot terms for me?
So the International Space Station is a space station that orbits Earth. That is coming to an end in 2030, 2032. It's too old. And the next space station that is similar to that will be around the moon. So that's the new destination. So really taking humanity back to the moon. So that we'll build a space station that will orbit the moon and then use that as a platform to go down to the moon, do operations, and go back up. So the UAE now is a partner in that space station. We'll be building a very large part of that. What we're building is the airlock, and that is where the astronauts take an EVA, or they leave the space station to do activities outside in space and then go back. So you have to have a room which basically changes the pressure and the air. So for the UAE to be providing that, that shows the trust of the international partnership. We could have never dreamed of something like that 5 years ago, let alone 15 years ago. So I think we've come a long way, and our partners globally recognize that.
I mean, the idea of the UAE putting a man on the moon, I know it's not that literal, but in a sense, that's the image that we all think of for space conquest, if you like. But also you're doing work with Mars.
Yeah, so with Mars, this was an objective that came from the leadership. So we'd had one of these satellites that were launched, and we had our leadership coming over, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid with His Highness Sheikh Hamdan, the Crown Prince of Dubai. And His Highness said, let's do something a little bit more difficult. Can you do a study to send a mission to Mars? I mean, we were shocked because we'd only sent 1.5 satellites into space. And then we're thinking about Mars, which is 400 million kilometers away. And we did a 100-day study for him. We looked at how we can partner with different entities. And then we built this concept of building a probe, which is about 1.5 tons, and sending that to Mars and doing it in a very cost-effective way. And in about 8 years, we had built that probe in partnership with the universities in the United States, launched it, and now we operate it. And it's been operating around Mars for about 3 years. The objective of the probe is to image the Martian atmosphere, to understand what happened to Mars, and try to understand what happened with the water, what happened with the oxygen there. And basically, it's contributing to the global understanding of Mars.
It's interesting, isn't it? Even perhaps 50, 60 years ago, perhaps the biggest urge of the people of UAE would be to find water in the desert in your homeland. And now you're trying to find water on Mars.
That is very interesting. And I think you're absolutely right. 50 years ago, I think even 40 years ago, the main thing here would be, where is the water? And going back to this area is farms because there was a lot of underground water here. Still is. So you'll see a lot of trees out there, and wherever there's water, there's an oasis. That's where life was. That's where the people were. Where there's no water out in the desert, nobody would be there. And, we are going to Mars, we're going to the moon to look at those things as well.
Well, I can't imagine that you're going to stop at the moon or Mars or outer space. I feel like this is just the beginning for you personally and also for UAE's space program. Do you have that feeling too?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sky's the limit, or at least space is the limit, as they say. And what
the sky isn't the limit, actually.
And I think definitely I would hopefully retire in space. So I love space. I love Star Trek, Star Wars, science fiction, and whatever we can do here, these crazy ideas that our engineers come up with, and take them into space and bring us closer to that Star Wars, Star Trek kind of vision, that is what drives me. So you never know where we'll be in 30 years, but hopefully we find some aliens and we're able to say hello.
Absolute pleasure chatting
you.
with you. Good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Good luck. Not at all. Thank you. Meeting Salam was like getting a shot of energy and the spirit of adventure, the work he's doing to think how effectively, in terms of cost and in terms of result, they can increase their space program, not just to take them to the stars, but also to bring learning and knowledge back here to Earth. And it seems to sum up, in a way, the huge journey Dubai's been on. If you think they've gone from the desert of Earth to the desert of Mars in just 53 years. And I get the feeling they're not stopping there. In the next episode, we explore how this city built on sand grows in the desert. My goodness, it's like you're stepping into a jungle. Literally, like we've stepped into another world, haven't we? You see?
After years,
You're changing minds.
you know, I believe if you can grow in the desert, you can grow almost everywhere around the world.
They're like your children.
Yeah, like a million little kids, you can
A
say.
million little kids. Click subscribe for our weekly episodes, and you can also listen on all podcast platforms.